Well, I graduated in the class of 54, so let's say I was in class of 1950. I came from St. Philip Neri, up in North St. Louis. I was a student, and then I wound up getting very interested in doing books and so forth, and so I worked for McGraw-Hill Book Company for a while. My father, who's in politics, who also was, by the way, a graduate of St. Louis U High, but that was when St. Louis U High was down at St. Louis University. It really was not out at this point yet. Anyway, he was in politics, and so I started doing things like that. So I was working for McGraw-Hill, and I also decided I had some time off, so I became an alderman in the city of St. Louis. I couldn't hold a job. And as we were talking, I taught here, I taught at Ladue, I taught at Ladue, and then at Priory, and then I came back to St. Louis U High as a teacher, and then I became principal here. Well, everything was special. To be honest with you, I'll be 80 in November, and the mind is slowly going and trying to remember all these kinds of things. I'd have to probably, Joe Schulte, for example, is an old friend of mine, and those kinds of things. But just watching some of the problems that were there, we were having difficulties, for example, in trying to get kids coming from all these other grade schools, and that was why we actually started looking at the idea of having a boys' school, which is how Loyola Academy got started. And my assistant principal then became the principal over there. He then became the president of it, and that. So those kinds of things were happening, of trying to say, how do we bring kids in coming from so many different groups and different things, how do we bring them all together, and making that freshman year one that combines it and makes it into a sort of a universal way of looking at things, but also thinking out beyond just simply what's mechanics, but how does it apply to your life, and how does it apply to the things you're going to hope to look at. And so we tried to do it so that they were thinking not just simply to see if they could regurgitate all the information, but could they also use it and make it apply into some of the other areas that they were doing. And so we would ask kids, for example, to talk about if they were working in the summertime, how did this help you in your summer program? And do things like that. And so we tried to go and work it in so that we were bringing people in and having them thinking, how is this important to me?
What draws students to this place?
Well, part of it's reputation. Part of it is from looking, and some of them might just simply looking at, they're interested in sports, and so therefore they look to want to see what they're doing in that. Some of them are maybe into the area that they would like to do things in drama. That was something that wasn't necessarily a major thing here, but it's one of the things that really became one of the strong things we wanted to do. I had worked for years over at the Muni Opera, and over at also down at the Key Auditorium and things like that. I couldn't hold a job. I was just all over the place. But I was using all those experiences and saying, those are the kinds of things that I think students need to hear, and then they also need to then figure, how does it work out for us? And so that's one of the things we were doing. Well, I think the Jesuits were wonderful, really and truly. I mean, part of my problem with it was that you had the Jesuits, but they weren't even living over here. They were living over a couple blocks over from here. And I wanted to get them over here, and I also wanted to get the novitiates into working at the same time with the priests. And so I was also working through people with St. Louis University, trying to get them to maybe work with us to do that. Again, I had a sister, my oldest sister was a daughter of Charity, which was called God's Geese. If you remember the Daughters of Charity, they had the big things. And when we started, I won't say we started, but when we initiated the idea of doing a thing like Loyola Academy, I had said, this is going to work for the boys. But if the women don't do anything, then we're going to need to do it. Lo and behold, my sister, the nun, she's the one who started Miriam Middle School. And again, on the same idea of trying to take kids who are going to have to think more about not just going to school, but what do they get out of it and how do they interact and all that kind of stuff. And so that's been an important thing in everything we do.
Well, after people, one of the things we notice is that this place draws a lot of alumni back to the school. Mm-hmm. What do you think's the driver in that? What brings them back?
Just for their experiences here and all the values that when they've been here, they go out and they're working and they start seeing all the values of the things that they learned here, and they think that they probably wouldn't have gotten that if they hadn't gone to this place, and then they want their kids to go here. That's what my father did. I mean, as I said, my father went to St. Louis University when it was still just simply part of the, St. Louis U High when it was still part of the university. It wasn't even over here yet. But basically, he really wanted to do that, and he was the one who wanted us to go. When I lived up in North St. Louis, I went to St. Philip Neri, and the schools that most of the kids were going to, it was sort of like they would go, and half of them wouldn't even wind up staying in the schools. And I said, nope, I can't do that. And my father said, no, you're not going to do it anyway. I want you to go to St. Louis U High. And so I wasn't the first one. My brother Tom came through here and so forth and so on. So all the Bannisters eventually went through here. So.
Okay. Well, this just kind of leads into the next question that says, why should parents send their sons here?
For all the reasons that I was just talking about. This is a place that not only just deals with education, but with personality, with how you use it, and how you can make other people helpful with it. As I sit there and I look, as I said, I taught at Ladue, and I also taught at Priory and that. And I just think that in looking at this is a place that expands even beyond where most of the other schools are. But even those schools are also, again, very, very, very good schools. And I think parents want their kids to have an experience that broadens them, not just simply information, but in personality and how they manage their lives.
Well, we keep hearing about the men for others concept. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, literally and truly, when you think about it, I watch people going on, and other people will just sit there and look and they'll say, oh, that poor person over there, but they don't want to do anything about it. But I think one of the things that I think being a man for others, you learn how to go out and try to say, can I help you? And to reach out and to try to make some kind of a foray so that they would understand that you're maybe going to help them. Well, because I think the history of St. Louis U High has always been literally the fact that the Jesuits and the novitiates and all that helped you to get into your sodality and to go out and to be a man for others and try to deal with those kinds of things. And they see that as a very valuable thing to do, and that's what we should be doing in our lives, is going out beyond ourselves, and when we see a need, to try to work on it. And so I think that's one of the reasons why they want to come here.
Athletic experiences while you were running the show here.
Oh, I was running the show? Athletics, I think that was part of the problem, is that everybody has, you got to have the number one team, you got to do this, and this. And I think ours was basically along that line, but also, what can we do to make ourselves not just simply that, but to be doing what we're supposed to be doing and doing it in the right way. And I think even when they go from being in a classroom into a team, they're doing it in the same thing. What can we do out beyond just simply the fundamental? How can we reach out and develop other ideas and do all of that? And so, not just simply the athletics, but the drama, the music programs, all those kinds of things are asking kids to think out beyond where just simply the narrow parts are, but how does it all fit together and so on. I think we were talking earlier, and I talked about a thing called Sudoku. I do Sudoku almost all the time. And one of the nice things about Sudoku is you think outside the box. It's not just simply trying to figure out what goes in there, but what can't go in there? And that happens to be half of the problem. So you got to think not just simply one way, you got to sit there and take a look at it from a lot of different directions. And I think that's really one of the things that we do around here is we ask the students to take it and ask other questions to see if that would help them with it. And it's just, I sit there and I look at this Sudoku and I think, this is almost too easy right now.